When we talk about supercars, we almost always end up mentioning the same names. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren, brands with huge histories, massive factories, billion-dollar marketing budgets, and logos that sometimes weigh more than the car itself. But today I want to talk about something different. A story that doesn't begin in a European boardroom full of engineers, but in a workshop, with welding sparks, long nights, and one very clear idea: to build the car that didn't exist. Today, I want to talk about Diego Grulon, a car builder you probably haven't heard of, but whose story represents the true spirit of automotive passion better than many famous brands ever could. And before we continue, if you enjoy discovering these lesser-known stories from the car world, supporting the video with a like or leaving a comment really helps. This is a small channel, and that support genuinely makes a difference. Diego Grulon is a Dominican entrepreneur who understood from a very young age that cars were more than just transportation. For him, cars were a combination of engineering, art, and personality. He didn't come from a famous automotive family or a legendary brand name. He came from hands-on work, learning by doing, making mistakes, and trying again. Before building supercars, Grullon worked as a welder, designer, mechanic, and architect. And you can feel that background in the way his cars are conceived. They're not designed just to look good in photos or at car shows. They're built to be driven, to be understood, and to be personalized by the people who own them. That philosophy eventually became DDR Motorsport, a company founded in Miami in the early 2000s. DDR Motorsport was never meant to compete with Ferrari or Lamborghini in terms of volume. Instead, it focused on something much more honest: building handcrafted, configurable supercars using proven mechanical components without unnecessary complexity. This is where an important concept comes in: the kit car. A kit car is not a toy, and it's not a poorly built vehicle. It's a car sold as components, which can be assembled by the owner or delivered fully built. And in the United States, it operates within a very clear legal framework. This allows costs to be reduced, customization to be extreme, and creativity to remain alive. The most iconic model from Diego Grulon is the GT8. Visually, it could easily pass for a high-end European supercar. Low, wide, aggressive proportions, a mid-engine layout, and a design that looks even more impressive in person than in pictures. Technically, the GT8 usually runs naturally aspirated V8 engines from General Motors, most commonly the legendary LS engines, the same family used in the Corvette for years. These engines are known for being reliable, powerful, and mechanically straightforward compared to modern turbocharged or hybrid powertrains. Depending on configuration, the GT8 can produce anywhere from around 430 horsepower to well over 600 horsepower. And here's the key point: weight. The car typically weighs between 1,200 and 1,300 kilograms, which gives it an outstanding power-to-weight ratio, better than many modern supercars. For comparison, a modern Porsche 911 often weighs between 1,500 and 1,600 kilograms. An Audi R8 V10 is in the same range. Even cars like the Ferrari F8 Tributo exceed 1,400 kilograms. What does this mean in real-world driving? It means that the GT8, even with less power on paper, can deliver sensations that are just as intense, sometimes even more so, especially in acceleration and on twisty roads. It relies less on electronics and more on the driver. In terms of performance, the GT8 can hit 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in around 3.5 seconds depending on setup. Yes, a Porsche 911 Turbo S is quicker, but it also costs more than twice as much. An Audi R8 offers similar numbers, but at a significantly higher price and with much more mechanical complexity. Now, let's be honest. Where does the GT8 lose compared to these cars? Refinement. A Porsche 911 benefits from decades of continuous development, outstanding interior quality, and an overall balance that is incredibly hard to match. An Audi R8 feels more premium inside and is easier to live with on a daily basis. But the GT8 isn't trying to compete there. It's not designed to be a comfortable daily driver or a quiet grand tourer. It's designed to deliver a raw mechanical driving experience. If we compare it to the Chevrolet Corvette, things get even more interesting. The Corvette offers incredible performance for the money, especially in its latest generations. But it's still a mass-produced car. You see Corvettes every day in the United States? You don't see GT8s. Exclusivity is one of DDR Motorsport's biggest strengths. This isn't a car for people who want brand recognition. It's for people who want something truly unique. In terms of driving feel, the GT8 is more raw, more direct, and less filtered. That can be a positive or a negative depending on the driver. If you're used to modern cars full of driver aids, it might feel intimidating. If you're into track days and mechanical feedback, you'll probably fall in love with it. Maintenance is another area where the GT8 shines. LS engines are cheap to maintain, parts are widely available, and almost any performance shop in the US knows how to work on them. Try saying the same about a high-revving Italian V10. Pricing depends heavily on configuration. A GT8 can start around $70,000 in kit form and exceed $120,000 fully built. That's still a lot of money. But when you compare it to $180,000 or $250,000 supercars, the value proposition becomes very clear. Delivery times reflect the car's handcrafted nature. This isn't mass production. Depending on customization, lead times typically range from 6 months to over a year. For many buyers, that's not a downside, it's part of the experience. Of course, this kind of car isn't for everyone. It's not for people who want zero involvement or zero compromises. It's for enthusiasts who enjoy being part of the process and understanding exactly what they're driving. And this is where Diego Grulon's story becomes truly important. In an industry moving toward heavier, more homogenized, and increasingly filtered vehicles, he chose the opposite path. Simple mechanics, real sound, direct connection between driver and machine. If you're enjoying this type of content, I'd genuinely love to hear your opinion in the comments. Would you own a car like this? Would you choose a handcrafted supercar over a traditional brand? These conversations are what help build a real community, and supporting the channel with a like or subscription makes a huge difference. DDR Motorsport doesn't just sell cars, it sells an idea. The idea that it's still possible to build something different. Something with soul. You might never see a GT8 on every street corner. It might not impress people who only care about logos, but for those who understand what it represents, it's special. And maybe that's the final reflection. In a world where cars are becoming increasingly similar, stories like Diego Grulon's remind us why we fell in love with automobiles in the first place. Not because of screens or driver assists, but because of what we feel when we turn the key and the engine comes to life. If a car can make you feel something, even without the most famous badge in the world, maybe it's doing its job better than most. See you in the next video.